welcome back, everyone. Another podcast here. Obviously, you can see everyone at the table. I shouldn't have to introduce everyone, but obviously, I'm Trevor. We got Matt here, Zoom, and Tim, Turbo Tim.
Yep.
So these are technically the first 3 employees of ZZP, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tim was an employee before Matt was, because Matt was doing his own thing alongside.
Just working together.
Right. But Tim was the first official employee, I think, welding rockers for $10 an hour.
and grinding ported exhaust manifolds.
Yeah.
Out of your garage.
Good times.
With the 110 air compressor.
I didn't even know you know how to weld, to be honest.
Yep.
Barely.
Went to college for it. Yep.
Enough for $10 an hour, apparently.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I figured, obviously, you guys all owned, drove, raced, modified 3800 platform cars, so we'll touch on that. It's interesting to me. I'm kind of past the age of 3800s, so I don't have a whole lot into them, but compared to the modern platforms, it's crazy how into these cars people get. And like dyno days today, like everyone still goes crazy with them.
Yeah, the 3800 community is like a gang.
Mm-hmm.
A family and a gang.
It's been strong since the get-go. Long time. You really almost don't see it like that anymore in the newer platforms.
They kind of start out slow and ramp up now as they get old enough for people to modify them and whatnot.
But people come in and out a lot quicker. And 3800s people were more passionate about. I think more people worked on their own cars. A lot more information sharing. Maybe it was because forums were the big thing at that time.
Yep. Yeah.
And Facebook is kind of a shorter attention span audience. I don't know. But no, we had good times. We did a lot of racing. And we used to race a lot of times more than once a week. But every single week we were going to the track and we were racing.
Oh, really?
And this was at a time where it took us an hour to get there. And we would modify the cars there. We would drag prep them. So just an enormous amount of hours of our lives invested into this. I mean, the people we were dating were changing tires and helping us.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was our entire lives, 16 hours a day, almost 7 days a week. Sunday would be a shortened day.
So that was like, a lot of times I know going to the drag strip, it's you go there for an hour, do 2-3 passes and leave. You're more like the whole day.
We were there the whole time. It was more than once that the lights were turned off because we weren't ready to leave yet.
Oh, yeah.
And we were still putting street tires back on.
And cat backs back on and seats back in.
And everybody left. There was a time when the track officials told us to close the gate when we left because
everyone knew you, I'm sure, by that point.
Yep.
But the racing was heated. Like everyone was drag racing these 3800s. Everyone was waiting to hear the results. We had some really stiff competition from other vendors and other individuals. There was, at that early days, Thrasher was the big company, and Intense kind of came up just as we did, and Scott Cook of Intense was pretty competitive, and he had a team, and we had a team, and we would all know that everyone else in this market was out there testing parts and looking to set records, and if we didn't do it like that week, we might get bested. So a lot of leapfrogging going on, and passions ran wild. So we had crazy times at some of these events, like stuff that people wouldn't even believe almost. Telling.
I've heard little blips of these stories, but never really got into it.
Yeah, we had a time at Norwalk, and it was an Intense sponsored event. So Intense, we didn't have a good relationship with them, but they came out with this idea that they were going to bring us there to the event as well, and everyone was going to be welcome, right?
So they did invite you.
Yeah, we were invited. This was very public on the forums, and we always knew that things weren't exactly as they seemed. It'd be frustrated sometimes to watch the customers taking sides when you knew that you were kind of in the right, but at least so you thought. And we were working on a customer's car at the time, Henry Lucier, and what we were putting on his car, I don't remember whose idea originally the hybrid was. Do you know, Matt?
I think Ken was involved in it.
Okay, so
to an extent, but
we took an M90 and we put M112 rotors in it to essentially make the blower larger. and we had an extension, and we called it like a M112 hybrid. And so we were pushing this on the market, and in typical fashion, Intense was saying it was garbage and it wouldn't do anything, and we were saying no, it's the best thing ever, and of course later you find out turbos are what's going to make all the real big power. But we finished Henry's car, and we got that car. I think, did we trailer that car?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe it's about 4.5 hours to this track. And so we went to the track, and Scott had all his cars there and his people, and it was real important, like how you showed, because this was going to determine the better company and which parts customers were going to buy and things like that. And we ended up only getting one.
Yeah, well, remember when we got there, all the classes were set up specifically to disqualify any car that we had into the next class. It's strategically done.
Yeah. A lot of rules about, what was it? It was tires, power adders, but it was done in a way to favor the Intense team and punish our team, because they knew that what we were kind of running with. They tended to push the more advanced parts. They were the first to go into turbos and do bigger builds.
The full-on kits and stuff.
The first to pull their seats, the first to put slicks and skinnies on.
Yeah.
They always were one big event ahead of us with that. We always had to follow what they did so our numbers were comparable.
Yeah. It was tactical, though, because I received the most heat about stripping my car down, and when I would run these times, I was like, that's because Zoomer strips his car and has no interior and has this and has that. And so I was like, no. So we based on them saying that, we'd be racing the car full interior. Then we show up at an event and all their cars are stripped out.
So
they've been running with their cars stripped out, and I was the one with the full interior. It's like, oh, okay, well, if we're going to do that, and then we'd go, and then of course our times would advance again. But so we show up at this event, and we're like a bunch of crap with these classes, and they're setting themselves up to look like winners. And Scott loved to mess with the rules and the detail of things to make himself look better than what he actually was, while claiming that I was doing this. But I mean, honest to God, we were running much simpler setups. I think that's part of where our success came from. And Henry's car went out and run. We got one run with that car, and it ran, I think, 1179, somewhere in the 11s. And at the time, it was a reasonable run.
Yeah.
And it showed well. And so we were like, that M112, we showed we need to show. And I believe that ended up being the fastest car there that day.
Oh, across
for the entire rest of the day, none of the Intense team was able to beat that time.
But they even moved they moved their flagship car. They changed some mods on it and put them in a different class because they knew they couldn't beat that time.
Oh, so they tried to take a faster car and downplay it into a lower class
put
or whatever?
In a class that it can win.
But they didn't. But that's just the racing part of it, right? So everybody loves that part. Everyone loves the sport. We love to race. Talking shit is part of racing, beating people and then claiming it wasn't fair. I mean, this goes on in every market all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But that's not really where the drama came in at IDT.
Because nowadays, this shit talking still happens, but it's over Facebook.
Yeah.
It's never at an event or anything.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never get approached or whatnot.
No, so at this event, someone's car, it was Magnus, right?
Yep.
So Magnus, and I don't remember what his real name was. He was HP Tuner's guy originally, right? Yeah. So Magnus was driving his car back. Now, the way that this drag day was set up and the way Norwalk was set up is the rivalry was pretty heated. We weren't very friendly. So our team set up way far away from the beginning. Like the Intense team and everyone that supported them was up front and very close, easy access to the drag strip. We were way far back, and you had to drive by us when they were going back to their camp. So as you came off, your pit lane, back from running your quarter mile, you would drive by our whole team and camp, and then you'd go down the parking lot and into the next thing. And Keith was driving his vehicle back, and Buckshaw?
Yeah, well, he drove right through our camp,
Like off the
weaving a
road
between
back.
our cars. Well, we're in a parking lot, but instead of just driving back, drove
Not taking the easiest route.
through our cars,
Yeah.
revving his engine and just trying to
Yeah.
get a reaction.
Which he got from Dave Buckshaw, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he must have been. Was he fastest time of the day at this point? Is that why he was
No,
so
no. This
confident?
this was not about racing at this
Oh,
point.
this was just-
this was personal rivalries going on. And we had DHP, and that's who Dave Buckshaw was part of at that time. And so that was like our camp. It was ZZP and DHP and the people that supported us, and then you had Intense, down, and the people that were supporting them there. And so, what did Dave say?
I think it was move on, asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about asshole, right? And so Keith drives back, but and Matt, you know the story a little bit better than me, so jump in there. What happened from there?
Well, I was sitting there putting slicks on a car, and I hear somebody just going off, turn around, and there's I think he walked back over from the other camp. And he says, "Who called me an asshole?"
Well, he rolled up his sleeves.
Yeah.
He was wearing a white T-shirt, and he rolled up his sleeves because he's like, he's going to be a tough guy,
Oh, yeah. He's puffed up.
Yeah, it was what, about $1.95, coming over there,
And,
I would guess.
And I'm like, "What's going on?" Here we go. And who was it? Who called me an asshole? And then Zoom stepped in. Back in his bodybuilding days.
Yeah, I was approaching 250 and pretty ripped out, so I was not the kind of person you stood up to, Yeah.
And he didn't like that answer when Zoom said it was me. He was looking around for somebody smaller. No, somebody called me an asshole.
Because he walked all the way over. You can't go back at this point.
Yeah.
He had someone with him. Yeah, we'll get to it in a little bit, but he had someone with him. And he comes up, "Who called me an asshole?" And we got our whole team, and it's a little ballsy, like 2 dudes coming on 40 of us probably in this camp, And I was like, "It was me." He's like, "No, it wasn't you. It was someone smaller, So I was like, "No, it was me." And he's like, "No, it wasn't you." So I got up in his face, And I just went nose to nose with him, just gently brushing our noses, and talking shit. Told him to go home. Told him he was a little boy, and he was scared and he needed to just go home. So he turned around and he left, tail tucked between his legs, goal accomplished, right? Mm-hmm. And sometime a little bit later, the track official from Norwalk came up to our team. Okay, the owner of Norwalk. Pissed, heated. He was angry, right? Mm-hmm. And Magnus had told a story that I had picked him up and thrown him 20 feet, and that we were jumping on the hoods of the car.
There was a lot of.
Just this
ridiculous.
crazy exaggerated story, and like pulled his T-shirt, like whatever. And so this owner is just mad. And when we go to explain our case, the owner just says he's calling the cops because he's looking at this unruly gang essentially that's attacking people and smashing their cars, and then we're trying to talk our way out of that. No, he's not even hearing it. Like, I'm calling the cops. We're like, no need. We'll pack up. And so we just quietly and politely just packed up our stuff, which takes a long time. And this is why Henry only got one run. And so it's sometime later he calms down a bit because we're not acting like this unruly gang that's cursing and swearing and throwing things that he's been told. So then it comes to a point where we can at least have dialogue, but we're still cleaning up. And we put our stuff away, and we're just kind of explaining the situation. He's like, "Look, guys," he's like, "Yeah, I get it. Maybe the story wasn't accurate, but Scott paid for the track and he wants you gone. So, that's the way it is." And the aftermath of that, I believe we left the hotel, right? We had a hotel, but we didn't stay. We left because we were worried that Scott was going to make up stories like damage his own car or say that we got in a fight or set us up, because it at that point seemed like the entire invite to IDD was a setup, Yeah. And I think tactically it was probably a bad move on their part, because we had too many witnesses that saw what actually happened. And interestingly enough, what Magnus didn't know is that the guy who walked up with him had a video camera in his hand, and he held it down. Yeah. And it was on the whole time. So I still have that video, and I have never publicly shared it. But I will at some point.
At some point.
I will. And so on that video, he's like, Zoomer assaulted me, right? But you can tell from the dialogue and the way the video went that he was making the story up. So that's what that guy did. He ripped his own shirt.
Oh, really? He actually set up the story and everything?
Said I threw him 20 feet, which, I was strong, but throw a man 20 feet, David Banner.
Take it as a compliment, I guess.
Yeah. And then, of course, the forums blew up, and one side was accusing us of these crazy things, and we were trying to defend, and all of these people were tuning in for the drama, but nobody that wasn't there, actually knew what came on. But we left that with a reputation of being some thugs. There was really just no getting around that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. And that was just one of the times. We got a lot of
just
stories
one
like
of the
that.
times. And that was later in the whole 3800 game, you were saying too. This was.
It wasn't real late. It was in the middle of it.
05 maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there. It was when the rivalry was very
peak,
strong,
yeah.
and Intense was doing well, and we were doing well, and the market was. It was lively,
Yeah.
Every day it was, you've ruined the market, But everybody would tune in every day to see what the new drama was.
Yeah.
In this ruined market.
Crazy.
Tim, were you there through that?
I was not there. I was working.
Okay.
I was shipping parts.
We had to call back home and tell the team what had happened and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, oh, man. Crazy times.
Yeah, we weren't. It was a weird relationship because we weren't enemies. We sold each other's parts.
Oh, really?
We've gone to Scott's house a few times, ate at his house, hung out at Scott's house. It was just like that friend that you always want to kick his ass.
Yep.
That friend that you're always trying to beat. We wouldn't sabotage each other's vehicles. We were just, he had a interesting tactic.
Got to peak emotional a couple times, and
he's still like that too.
Things, yeah.
Because Scott sold Intense. Intense is not owned by Scott anymore, but we're once again competing with him and other platforms. And he's kind of doing the same tactics.
Interesting.
There were events where my car was sabotaged, though.
Yeah, I think, Matt, you were talking about that with me the other day.
I was definitely there for that one.
The last GPG.
I think that ended the GPGs.
It might have.
Probably.
Oh, they shut down the whole event from that point on?
Well, so the original one was very big, and it was sponsored by GM and lots of vendors. Semi-trucks came. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, we had gone to one in Kansas City, I believe, Kansas City, Missouri, and that was a really good time around, what was it, 02 maybe, that were still going strong.
Well, when you first got your
so these were
your
2-3-year-old cars at that point.
They were doing
yeah.
them back in the 90s. I think the first one we went to was probably 2000.
So so that was a very large event, and that was like you had Terry Reels, South Florida Pulley headquarters. I mean, ZZP was nobody. We didn't even sponsor the event. I mean, we were a nobody, right?
Yeah, you're just
so we were a laughing stock to the real vendors who were coming there. You know, young kid talking shit, this, that, whatever. And eventually, you know, sort of long story short, there. Eventually, that event fell apart because I believe it was Tony Lauer. But there was a guy who was one of the people in charge, and Charles Byer, DHP, I believe, and then followed by Terry Reels, he uncovered that the charity portion of that event was a large scam. And the guy running the event had stolen the charity money, used it to buy a new house. And I don't know if this is public, but I think we're past statute at this point, so I can say it. And so the vendors behind the scenes were talking about this, and some cared more than others. But yeah, a dude had embezzled from the charity a bunch of money, and then when he got called out on it, quickly exited GPG. That is why GPG ended.
Wow.
Because no vendors were going to sponsor it anymore, and you know, that person who ran it obviously was exiting to not go to jail over this thing. Probably. I didn't know them well. And then someone bought the rights to GPG, and it was just it was a smaller guy, and he just wanted to, you know, rehash the events. And by then we were big enough to sponsor events, and there were a few other people, and so he tried to make it big like it used to be, but he was taking a lot of cues, and by then the rivalries and drama were pretty extreme. And so we went to what was one of these new GPGs. I don't think the track was the best.
No.
What city was that in?
I don't know. You were in Iowa somewhere. I didn't go to that one.
Okay.
Yeah, terrible track. Your car was it was twin charged. Fresh twin charged. So supercharged and turboed.
And we had just done that. And I think that was when we said, I think it was when we told Intense, if we wanted to, we could run 9s easily.
Before this event, you just made the statement.
Yeah. I made a lot of statements like that. And,
they had Intense had a turbo car for how long before we turboed
years. I think it was some years.
Probably going on 3 years.
Yeah, so they had a turbo car, which they kind of came out of nowhere with that and like barely beat Zoom's supercharged time. But
we had my drag car, but it was in the chassis shop, and they had been running their top car for about 3 years on a turbo, and they got it down to 10.1, I think. And then Zoom said, well, if your car's going to be a while, let's just turbo mine and go run 9s, was the idea.
Yeah, we showed up with your car on the trailer, ready to go, and we're all just hanging out in the hotel parking lot, just shooting the crap with all the guys that we've, you know, formed friendships and rivalries with through the years, and we went to bed and woke up the next day, and who was it?
I don't know who
one
it was.
One of the main guys, big on the forums, like came up to Zoom and was like, "Hey, man, I got something on my chest."
It was Lee.
Yes. Yup, it was Lee. He came up and he's like, I got something I gotta get off my chest. Like, hey, one of the guys I'm affiliated with, like, messed with your car. And we're just like, what the hell? So we're like, you know, I'm pretty angry. I'm pretty young at the time. So I'm just in a fury. We run out to the car, and they basically turned every dial, unplugged every sensor, like, just totally, like, sabotaged the car. Like, brake proportioning valve, full rear.
Was it like
controller,
they
full
got under the hood
max.
somehow or something? Or?
They had a carbon fiber hood with
so
pins.
just popped hood latches or whatever?
Yep. Unplugged crank sensors.
And
And
they pulled wires loose, put stuff in the gas tank.
Yup.
It's really kind of a shame because, you know, in all the car communities, things get heated and people talk a lot of shit, and they even go to blows. Like, people will, you know, you'll see a parking lot fight or something, but never do you mess with someone's car.
No.
Ever. It is like a punishable by death kind of rule in the entire world of car scenes.
Oh, yeah.
You don't mess with the car, right? And I mean, it was a safety issue. You know, you're talking about a car that you were trying to run nines, which puts you at what, 140 miles an hour? And imagine, you know, you trailer it there, you trailer it to the track, you get out there, you do your burnout, and you're 140 miles an hour with a shutoff zone, and you find out your brakes don't work.
Yeah.
Right?
There's nothing you can do that.
I mean, you could potentially kill someone with doing that. And that was unfortunate. And that really, to me, that was the first time that the drama, because everyone says the drama ruins the community, but it doesn't. They love it. Everyone loves the drama. They love the shit talking. They love the rivalry. Everybody loves it, right? And it just makes communities grow. Every time we do a new market, they tell me I'm ruining it because I talk shit and I'm drama and the vendors don't get along and this and that, whatever. It all grows the market, right? It's good, even though they say it's bad.
Yeah.
When you start being fearful of people messing with your car, it ruins the market.
Yeah.
No one is going to go to an event if they think their car is going to get keyed or sabotaged or messed with. You know, people even observing are no longer enjoying the drama. They don't even want to be there. Nobody wants to be around that.
Just malicious.
Yeah. That's the hard line where the market does get ruined. Is like if a vendor steals from people or something, and you can no longer enjoy the sport because you can't mod your car because people are stealing your money. If the cars are getting sabotaged at events, or the events aren't enjoyable for the spectators, right? I mean, people like me, we love being in the spotlight. I don't mind the drama and the shit talking and whatever you want to bring at me. And people like to observe that. But when it crosses the line, then no one wants to be there. And we left after that.
Yeah. I'm assuming the car was not even, it sounds like they made it non-functional to so many levels that...
Well, it was the unknown. I mean, you know, you put together a car that quickly. You trust your team. You trust that everybody's done every component properly. One thing wrong can be really bad. And so it doesn't even matter what they did because we didn't know what they did, right? So when the car came back, we had to start all over again. Because we just didn't know. Did they put something in the oil? Did they put something in the gas? Did they loosen any nuts or suspension? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So it's almost more work undoing that and trying to figure it out than it is, you know, building the thing in the first place. And nobody was going to go to an event after that, and GPG was just done.
Wow.
That was it. That person who did that killed the events for the entire community. Nearly forever.
So I'm assuming that went super public, super fast then, right? Probably?
Well, people went there from all over the country. And then when they didn't get to see Zoom race,
oh, yeah.
that's a big letdown.
That car was a fresh build quest for nines, you know, a goal that, you know, Scott wasn't able to do for years.
Wow.
You know, and fresh build.
But eventually we did hit nines, right? It took us
30 days.
Yeah, it took us 30 days to do it. We said we would do it. We said it would be easy. We made it look easy. We had our hours in there, you know.
Yeah.
But
We did it with no wheelie bar too. That's the other thing. We did it handicapped.
we got a good team. Yeah, those good times. We would have done it sooner, but the tranny broke.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, first attempt, the tranny broke on that. Well, chain snapped.
But that was same engine setup,
pass.
just...
Well, we might have gone nines the first night that we raced it. We went like 10-8, turned it up, 10-5, turned it up, 10-2, turned it up, snapped the chain.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it was right on the edge.
Oh,
yeah.
It was so dialed in. We were so happy. It was one of those, we started to come up with this saying, like, if we don't build the car the night before, it's not going to perform well or something like that. We just had this thing where, because there was another time where I was ready to go to the track and was it when my stroker broke? And I was going to go to the track and I was going to do something great, right? And the stroker broke, like the crank snapped or something like this, the day before that I was supposed to go race and do like some cool stuff. I was like, well, shit, right? So came up with a new idea, came up with a new plan, threw some shit together with some new ideas, right? and went and kicked ass the next day.
Pretty much an all-nighter, I'm assuming, probably.
A lot of all-nighters. So often were there all-nighters, yeah. And a lot of customers took that wrong because they were like, oh, you can do anything. You guys can build a car in a day. Why does it take you a week to do my car? You have to understand, my car was set up to modify. It didn't have the things on it that a customer car has. So when, I could take off a head in 20 minutes, right? I'm changing head gaskets start to finish in 45 minutes on this car, pop one up, and then you'd go. You can't do that on a customer car. It has all the accessories and amenities.
All the stock wiring and
Well, we would design the vehicle to quickly modify. So putting a mod on a car wasn't just like, hey, what's going to make the most power, do this, that. Like, what's the simplest way that we can get this?
Pull this off and back on at a track or whatever, Right,
and if the car we didn't have all the bolts on the car, so if there was a component on the car and we determined that, the factory has 5 bolts holding it down and we can get the job done with 3, we'd have 3 bolts on that item. So that, it just come on quickly.
Makes sense, yeah. Well, we just hit 30 minutes, so unless you guys have anything you really need to get out, figure we'll stop it there. These are still the 3 most busy employees probably here to this day, so I don't want to keep you any longer. But thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Catch you guys soon. Thanks.